modernity. That there is a limited amount of divine power in the world. They recognize that they're living in a closed ecological system. Now, they're recognizing a closed ecological system in their locality, in their region, but the idea could also be applied to the whole Earth as a closed ecological system. And they felt that existing in this closed ecological system, that they had to manage their resources carefully, and if they took something from someone, then they had to account for it in some other way. You always had to pay something, whether it was ritual or trade or whatever. But it's also founded on the idea that if a deer is sacred and has the same divine energy as you, then when you kill a deer, you're actually killing a fellow being, and that you owe something to that deer. And then so before you go kill a deer, you purify your body of the toxins, you get into a sacred state of hunting, you go kill the deer, and you thank the deer for feeding you, and you ask the deer to keep producing deer to come back and keep feeding you. If you insult the deer and said, okay, well, you know, you're just a commercial product, the deer ain't going to come back. So there's a sense of deeply ingrained reciprocity in these cultures, one because they felt that they were dealing with sacred life, and secondly because it was a closed system. Now, this is an ideology. This is an ideology. An ideology explains to you how the world works and how you should act. And so the ideologies can become corrupted. This is what I've just described as a pure form of ideology, just like our democracy has its pure forms and then its corruptions. Part of the corruption has been detected in the tropical areas of the Americas, in which, for example, one author, Santos Granero, looked at 6 predator societies that were hunters and gatherers and partly agriculture, from Florida all the way down to Argentina and on the other side of Ecuador. And they found that these societies, once they got into competition with other groups, they needed to steal life from the other groups. In fact, that's what they view. The sacred energy is considered life, and it's contained in human blood and in everything other they produce. So when they started competing with each other for hunting territories, farming territories, and they needed extra energy for labor, they would then go raid the other group and steal things from them and take captives. So how is that a reciprocal relation? So they figured out a way that now the reciprocal relation is a competitive relation. It's a warning relationship. They're going to take from us, and we take from them. So going from a reciprocal relation of harmony, they go to a reciprocal relation of hostility and destruction. And it also comes with once you get wealth starting into a society, you get the beginning of a class division, even among the early peoples in the forest. And once you have class division and rulers, they start to take more wealth, and so that's another aspect there. The other thing that, and ultimately one of the patterns that I found both among hunters and gatherers in the Amazon forest and in the desert of northern Mexico and in the Aztec life is that they all went out and collected heads, human heads. They were all head hunters. And again, the idea is that the head contains spiritual power in it, and you have to treat it in a way that you're going to tap that spiritual power. And so you get, this explains to me the elite warfare of the Mayas. It also explains, bringing the earlier warriors would bring back only the head, because once you kill somebody, unless you bring them back as a captive, it's very difficult to bring back the whole body. So if you kill somebody in the field, bring back the head. By the time of the Aztecs and the Maya went only after nobles, so that was limited warfare. The Aztec went after massive captives. They figured out a way now with their new technology to bring massive numbers of people and sacrifice them in the pyramid. And when they sacrificed people, it was not, in their eyes, a brutal sacrifice. What they were doing was they sanctified the human being that was being sacrificed, turned him into a messenger to the gods, and then they sacrificed him, opened up his body, and opened up his heart as a symbol of this divine spiritual energy that is being returned to the Creator. And so this justifies war, because now you are now bringing holy energy back from other people and giving it to Huitzilopochtli or your other gods. And finally, there are some higher or civilized forms of religion about the hunters and gatherers that share many of the beliefs that this cosmological group did at the ground level. For example, Buddhism and Hinduism are highly compatible in ideological terms, in the sense that they believe that the world is motivated by spiritual fuel, and that as human beings, our goal as human beings is to evolve into a state of Buddha. The Buddha is not a god. The Buddha is the most highly evolved human being possible, and the idea is to transcend your material body and to become a spiritual being. And so, in fact, I think Cambodia, one of those other regions, and I'm about to stop now, there was a fusion of the animistic religion of the local areas and the influx of Buddhism and Hinduism, and it was a beautiful merge, creating new cultures there.
Yeah, I think there might be questions.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, but he's got to teach in a few minutes. So that's
we
why
got
you might
10
open up for, got about 10 minutes, but for questions.
Well, nobody wanted to ask questions before.
He's got a question.
I'm really interested in this idea that fire ceremony and the mitote as sort of a space of resistance against Spanish colonialism. And what I'm thinking of is the first resistance work in colonial Mexico, man's gods in the Mexican highlands, where he sort of talks about how during Spanish colonialism, what that meant was basically the destruction of the Aztec hierarchy, right? The priests were all persecuted, but you had this sort of resurgence of everyone now becoming a man god, and that was sort of a real threat became a threat on the local level to Spanish authorities, and they had to really sort of quash,
Right,
tribes in Inquisition, some of these sort of local man gods. But I'm wondering if you could sort of elaborate a little bit more on that idea of the mitote and use on the frontier.
In fact, you find it comparable among the Maya, because we once believed that, based on, I think, our experience with Catholicism and Christianity are conquest religions. They justify conquest. And for example, Catholicism, its main goal was to extirpate and to remove all evidence of the native religions. So what you get is what's called the great tradition, the priest creating a tradition, and then the folk tradition. In fact, that's a war going on in Europe for centuries, the popular versus the official. But we used to believe that with the collapse of Maya civilization before and after the conquest, that somehow the major ideas of Mayan religion were lost. But what archaeologists and anthropologists have found is that the Mayan population at the ground level retained the same beliefs as their the higher elaborate structures did, and they're still practicing today. So that, for example, a Mayan peasant can go out into the countryside with a group to pray for rain, and they build a little altar made out of wood that becomes the axis mundus through through sacred rituals. Now, what happened is that the mitote in the north, number one, it fits right into guerrilla organization because these groups are mobile. They might have specific sites and specific locations, but they're moving from one to the other, or they're going to create a new one, a new site. So they probably have their sacred sites already, the capacity to sacralize other sites. And it's at these meetings that they plan their actions in terms of how we're going to deal with the Spaniards. Are we going to fight them? Who are we going to raid? They just integrated the war plans into their everyday functioning of their group. And so that's why the Spaniards saw that as the thing that they wanted to target and destroy if possible, and they even got other natives